yes, yes, yes. Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. Yeah, all right. What is going on? Well, I'm getting all this noise. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. My people on TikTok, hello. My people on YouTube, hello. All right. Tonight, we're getting into this thing. And I'm just trying to make sure all of my little apparatuses are working, or apparati, however they pluralize that. All right, this is not going to work. I'm going to just put this over here, and we're at 92%, so hopefully we'll be able to keep this up. Ardell, how you doing, young man, young gentleman? All right, so listen, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. And today we're going into deceptions, how the government deceives the people by swapping the meanings of words, or just swapping the words, because the words already have a meaning. The problem is that some of us are not aware of the fact that there is a meaning to words. So we're going to go over some things. We're also going to dive into what the universal law of duality is, what it means, and how we use these laws, all of these universal laws, to our advantage. So we're going over that today. I want to welcome everybody. Ardell says parse syntax. We're dealing with some of that, yes, because we're going to get into some etymology, all right, and make sure we're recognizing the true meaning of words. We're recognizing where things started. We want to go into some history about some things that we have been deceived on in today's society that we don't know. All right, so we got to do our research, we got to do our homework, and then as we do that, we're really going to come into knowledge of what the truth is. All right, so let's go into this now. Before I get started, for those of you all who are interested in becoming a member of UNA, don't forget there is the UNA membership trust package. And what it comes with is all of your trust documents, all right? It comes with your membership badge and your allodial ID. Our allodial IDs deal with our spiritual name. And on the back of this allodial ID, there's a QR code where you will always be able to access your certified trust documents. It also comes with an education, which is very, very important. You have to know how to use these powerful tools, all right? Because if you don't know how to use them, then they're not going to work for you. And please don't think that, oh, I filled out the paperwork, Diva, am I free? Well, if you're asking me if you're free, then no, you're not. All right, it comes with knowledge. You got to have knowledge of who you are. That's where your true freedom it comes from. And these documents are just a tool to help you maintain that or show who you are. All right, let's get into this thing. How governments deceive the public by swapping meanings. Now, I want you all to leave comments in the comments section. My people on YouTube, welcome once again. Like, share, and subscribe, please. My people on TikTok, share and like and follow, please. Listen, some of you all have watched my sessions before, and you know that we're going to drop some jewels on you. If you have not subscribed, you know, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. All right, subscribe. If you have not followed, follow, all right, so that we can just get together and start getting this information, filling in these holes and these gaps. Okay. Right. So we just lost a lot of people on. Oh, wait, we still here? Can you hear me? Am I still up? All right. Technical difficulties. Not gonna get me today. All right. Now, so my whole point here is that all of us are still we're learning, we're filling in the gaps, these holes that are in the history, that are in, so we can disperse the deception that we have that has been put upon us. Okay, so join so that we can all in this community build together. Okay, now let me get on with this while I have time. And if you're not taking notes, you need to get a pen and paper. And let's take notes so we can get into this thing. Deceptions. Okay. Let me start here by saying and making it clear that every letter is a word. Every letter is a word, because these letters, they have a meaning. So you'll notice, if you've done any kind of research, you'll know that there's a number put on letters, or a number value that letters have. When you start seeing people do numerology and certain things, these letters have a number, which really is a frequency. All right. So what happens is, when you speak these letters, the frequency resonates with your cells within your vessel, or your DNA. This is why we speak about being very careful about the words that come out of your mouth, because everything you say resonates and has a resonant frequency with your DNA. So when you speak, you are literally writing your DNA. You're writing what's happening in your third dimension. And a lot of us are just very how do I say the word without being, I don't want to be mean or disrespectful, but we don't recognize the power of the words that are coming out of our mouth. And so when you speak and you're saying things, we have to start to recognize that we're always constantly writing a contract. You're constantly writing contracts. So be careful. If you're saying something negative, then understand that that is something that will show up in your future. You wrote it. So, for example, the term, that word, and I don't like to speak it, but that BROKE word that people like to put behind I am, that's a contract. When you're constantly saying that, that has to show up in your future. You said it. So that means it's got to be, your subconscious only is going to deliver to you what you're speaking to it. And if that's what you're speaking and it's constantly negative, then that's what's got to show up. Okay? So getting back to this, every letter is a word, and it has a resonant frequency. And when you speak it, it has to show up in your DNA in your future. Okay? Thank you, Vince. Unaware. Thank you. So as I go into this, we're understanding that every letter is a word. So when you start talking about a word is really a compound word, because it's got letters in it. So it's really, what you're looking at is a compound word. So a word is a contract. That's what it is. A word is a contract. Your name is a contract. This is why you'll see people, they'll put the letters in your name together, and there's a, whatever the number is, the ending number, it's telling certain things about your path or your life path, or what your name means. Okay, your name is a contract. Okay, so now as we get into this, now we have the understanding, every letter is a word, every word is a compound word, every word is a contract. You need to recognize that when you speak these words, you are writing a contract. And again, the contract shows up in your third dimension. You have told your subconscious this contract, and now your subconscious is going to produce it for you. So that BROKE word, if you're saying that, and you have the nerve to put I am in front of that word, then you are deserving of whatever financial issues you get as you come into your future, because you have spoken it. And that's all your subconscious can produce for you. All right. So now that we're understanding that, I need to get into some of these terms that we are taking on, and we're not recognizing that we're writing a contract for ourselves. Now, I want to get into my melanated people, because my melanated people feel like they've got it the hardest. All right. And I need it to be made clear that once again, we continue to write contracts with our words because we have been deceived into saying things and not recognizing the impact that they have on us spiritually. I'm going to talk about this word first. I'm getting into this one first because this is a big one. The term black. I need to break this down because we're not recognizing not only the true etymology of this term, we don't even recognize the spiritual ramifications for using this term. All right. So I'm going to go into the etymology, and you'll look up etymology. Is really dealing with the root or the basis or the origin of a word. Black. Let's understand that this word means dead. Legally, the word means dead. It means imbecile. It means someone who is without standing, someone who cannot own anything. That's what the term black means. Even if you break down the letters, B as in to be, lack as in not to have. Be as in to be, lack as in not to have. Be lack. Okay, I'm gonna go further. The term black is derived from the term BLEAK or BLAEK. Look up those terms. Be leak as in not to have or to be without. Bleak means pale and without color. Bleak means pale and without color. The term black comes from the term bleak, to not have. When you look up anything concerning the word white in Spanish, Italian, French, if it starts with a BL and ends with a K sound, it means white or pale and without color. What I'm saying to you is that this is a term that has been switched. Originally, this term was not applied to melanated people. This term originally dealt with people who were not supposed to have certain access to amenities that people who are from the land have. It was not applied to melanated people. It was applied to non-melanated people. But the term has been switched today. I'm going to go further. And I want all my melanated people to pay attention. I'm not just talking to melanated people. This particular section is for my melanated people, but I'm not just talking to melanated people right now. I'm going to talk to everybody, so stay tuned. I want you to take a look at any organization that has the term black, colored, Negro in it. All right. And I want you to do some research and find out who actually owns those organizations. When we're talking about Black Lives Matter, even NAACP, we're talking about Black Caucus, what else? Anything with black. And there's several others that we can name that have those terms black in it. Oh, here you go. This is another one. HBCU, historically black colleges and universities. I want you to understand who owns those organizations. They're not melanated. Every last one of those organizations that I just named are owned by the Jews. Every last one of them. There's only one historically black college and university that's not owned by the Jews, and that's Morris Brown in Atlanta, and they were shut down at some point. I'm letting you know that this is a term that has been deceptively put on melanated people, and you are not aware of the fact that it has nothing to do with you, and the fact that you keep taking on the title. You continue to damn yourself. When you say you are black, you are saying that you are dead. Let's be clear on that. When you're saying you are black, you are saying you have no legal standing. You are making a contract, not only with the government, but on a spiritual level. You are saying you do not deserve, you lack. You're saying you have no ownership. You're even saying you're not alive. So all this Black Lives Matter, you wouldn't have to be saying that if you really knew who you were. And then the people who are encouraging you to say that, they're not even for you. If I told a lie, I want you to put it in the comments section, because somebody is offended every time we tell the truth and the facts about who owns these organizations. You want to start talking about races. There is no races in the facts. What is the fact? I just gave you 4 organizations, and then I have somebody else who put up a United Negro College Fund. Go and look up who's owning these organizations. If it's a fact, then we're not talking about no racist. The fact is, the owners of all of those are Jews, so-called Jews, because we know really who the original Jews were. This is not about racist. This is about what the facts are. All right, if I have any comments, I want you to put them in the comments section. Once again, that was to my melanated folks. And then I'm going to talk about this term, white. White was not originally applied to light-skinned people. It was originally applied to your melanated folks coming over here from other lands who were considered royalty. Those were your original white people. It had nothing to do with skin color. It had to do with a status. But those terms have now been switched. And there's a deception whereby melanated people are calling themselves dead. And another group of people have taken on a term that was never applied to them or meant for them. All right. Sir, real, what is not no such thing? Expound on what you're saying. And make sure you speak with clarity so that we're clear in this room. All right. Once again, the topic for today: how governments deceive the public by swapping meanings. So we've just spoken about the term black and white. We've spoken about words and how when you're using words, if you're not aware of them, what ends up happening is you damn yourself on a spiritual level, on a legal level. Mr. Share, thank you for the love. Thank you for the love. Peace. All right. Now, I want to go into this next topic. Republican versus Democratic. Okay. Republican versus Democratic. Now, I need for us to understand where the term republic came from and where the term democratic comes from. All right. Those people who study, and especially my students and my members, anybody who's watched our sessions and has any knowledge about what's going on, you know that when we're talking about republic, we're talking about reserving your God-given rights. All right? Republic deals with reserving your God-given rights. So what are we saying? When we're dealing in the republic, and my people know who are operating as sovereigns, and we're walking in the private. The republic is where you are standing or upholding the rights given to you by God, some of which include your right to protect yourself, your right to have arms, your rights to travel this planet without governmental documentation. All right, your rights to even create money or create any kind of ability to have currency. You have those rights. And so when you're understanding what the republic is, then you will want to stand in the republic that's going to always protect your God-given rights. What is a democracy? A democracy is an organization, aka country, that is mob ruled. What does that mean? That means that the majority vote is what determines whatever the so-called rules are of that organization. Well, what's the problem with that? What's the problem with a democracy is that the fewer in number do not get heard. And the other problem is that the masses tend to be highly ignorant. And I mean highly. Instead of coming together and creating a policy that works to the benefit of everybody, a democracy is going to listen to the loud mouths who are clearly ignorant and then go with what they say as opposed to the thing that works for everybody. That's the problem with the democracy. And so democracies end in chaos. If you don't think this is chaos, what we're in right now, I don't know what you're living in. Democracies end in chaos. And the thing about it is that in a democracy, your rights are not protected. You don't have any rights in a democracy if the majority of ignorant people decide, well, no, it needs to be this way, even though it's harmful to the society at large. Well, the democracy doesn't care about that. Democracy is only concerned with, well, these people over here said that they want it, even though these people over here, they're ignorant, they haven't studied anything. They haven't taken the time to really digest and understand the ramifications of what their choice is. Yeah, that's your democracy. Versus a republic that is always going to protect your God-given rights at all costs. Okay, so now we're understanding. So I'm trying to break this down to make it clear, to help you understand where we came from. And why, when we switch these terms, now they've made democracy out to be some kind of glamorous, oh, it's democratic, it's the democracy, when it's the exact opposite. And because we don't have a clue of the things that we're supporting, you damn yourself Because I want it to be democratic. Okay, let me continue. Because originally, the republic was where your melanated people stood. Because we knew that we stood with God. I'm going to say this again. Originally, it was the republic where the melanated people stood because we knew we stood with God. Oh, wait a minute. But we be voting Democratic out of this Democrat, and we the Democratic Party. Let me give you a clue about what happened in history. Pay attention and take notes. So originally, as I told you, the so-called white people that were coming here were melanated. And they were owners of land. Most of them were royalty from places like Britain and Morocco and Sicily, not Sicily, but what is it? Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, places like that. Because they were sailors and they came over into the land, right? So they came into the land and they were respecting the republic because they knew what republic meant. So as these melanated people, these Moors, they started to lose their power because they started to lose knowledge. They stopped educating their melanated people. And then they started educating the Albions because, look, when we talk about Moors, they were sexing everything that moved. They were more so sleeping with the Albion women that they brought in as slaves. Look up Moorish concubines. All right, look up Moorish bathhouses and understand they started to educate their Albion offspring and not their melanated offspring. Pay attention, because I don't want it to be said and thought that all this is because the melanated people. Let's be clear, because y'all want to be talking about, oh, the Europeans came over here and they did, excuse me, the original Europeans were melanated people. Your Moors of Morocco and Tunis and Algiers. Why do you think they got this term Indo-European? Why do you think they got that? Because that was referring to the Albions, because they, once again, switched terms. And so now y'all have dropped the Indo, and the only thing y'all know is European, and y'all want to apply that to Albions when original Europeans were melanated. Watch out. You this close. You this close, watch out. Say something with intelligence, because we're intelligent in this land. In this land. And if I'm offending you because you're light-skinned, this is not meant to offend you. I'm telling you the facts. So stay tuned and be intelligent and don't knee-jerk in my room. Lavita says, can I suggest books to read? I suggest topics for you to look up, Lavita, because there's not a book that I have found that I have a true respect for, that everything in it is on point. So when I give you topics, I'm giving you topics to look up, because you need to look up the topics and then you can find several different sources based on that topic. So when I tell you Moorish bathhouses, when I tell you to look up Moorish, any kind of Moorish who were coming in the land, here's another thing that I want you to look up. Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Montezuma. And those are the any kind of Barbary Treaty companies. Look that up, because I need you to look up the topics, because that's going to lead you to more information. I don't want you to just read books that I suggest to you. I need you to do research, because a lot of these books just do not tell the full truth. Okay. Thank you, Stone Chill. Thank you for the love, Stone Chill. Thank you, Queen J. I appreciate the love. Okay. Now, let me get to this. So we're understanding that there's the republic and then there's the democracy. All right. The democracy is based on mob rule. Mob rule is always going to end up in chaos. All right. This is where your rights are not protected. If you are in the minority of people, then you're going to not be heard. All right. And so your rights, therefore, are not protected. Getting on to the republic, what has happened is that at some point when the Moors lost their power around your 1800s, because they were actually running originally the United States of America from the beginning, because it was elite Moors that actually created it, not no Albions. Elite Moors actually created the United States of America, melanated folks. This is why they don't tell you about the presidents before Washington, George Washington. They don't tell you about that. All right, because those people, a lot of them were melanated. All right, they want you to believe that it was Albions running this when it wasn't. All right, so what has happened is, you know, George Washington comes in, and George Washington is actually a crony to the Queen of England. Washington was melanated. Now I need to get into this because I'm just wanting to get to these words. Washington was melanated. Abraham Lincoln was melanated. Everybody in between them was melanated, and they all are direct descendants of the Queen of England. The Queen of England was melanated all the way up to the mid 1800s. I need you to look up royalty, melanated royalty. Just look it up, and then you're going to find a whole bunch of sources. Read those sources. All right. So what I'm getting to is that in the Americas, melanated people, or the Moors, had started to lose their power. It started with George Washington. By the 1800s, they had pretty much lost all of their power. And this is when we start getting these different parties coming in: Republican Party, Democratic Party. Now, by the time 1871 rolled around, both of these parties were owned by Britain, as is today, still owned by Britain. And I'm not going into that today, because I go into how the United States went back over to Britain, and what's the difference between the United States of America versus the United States. Go to YouTube, all right, and find us at UNARepublic on YouTube, and we go through that, all right, the difference between the United States of America versus the United States. All right, so at this time, when the Moors had lost all of their power, nobody even remembers that they was in power, because history has been rewritten in 1870s. In the mid 1800s, what we call the Reconstruction era. Look that up. Look up the Reconstruction era and find out what happened and how all kind of things were rewritten and reconstructed. All right, so at this time, there was this whole plan, when we're talking about the Republican Party versus Democratic Party, to switch it to where melanated people would vote Democratic, which Democratic was not to their benefit. So now let me give y'all another clue. That whole rebel flag that you all know, with the cross on it and the stars, that was originally an Indian flag. Melanated folks, the original people of the land, that was originally an Indian flag. Now they got melanated folks hating that flag. Once again, the topic for today is how governments deceive the public by swapping meanings. That flag was originally, that cross, that was an Indian flag. Look that up. And what happened is that some kind of way they have switched it to where melanated people hate the flag, and they think, oh, that flag is against us. And then you got Albions thinking that flag is for them, when the people who originally was flying that flag, they was for the enslavement of the Albion, so-called white people. They were for, because remember, the Indians originally owned slaves. Oh, we forgot about that. The original people of the land were melanated. They look like me. They originally owned slaves. That flag belonged to Indians, and they were the ones saying, oh yeah, we want to keep these Albions enslaved. They should not have access to be a citizen. Okay. When you do your research, you'll find that there was a plan put in purposefully to get the melanated people to vote Democratic. And to this day, melanated people are still voting Democratic, and it is not even in your best interest to be voting Democratic because it has nothing to do about protecting your rights. It has everything to do with taking away your rights. A democratic form of government, what didn't I just tell you what democracy is? It means mob rule. It means that the fewer in number do not get a voice. So if you know that you as a melanated being are fewer in number, why would you partake in something that has nothing to do with your benefit? It won't even hear you because you are fewer in number. Now, we're not as few in number as they claim. It's not no 13%. Like, it's way more than that. We probably 30, 35%. But you definitely would not be in the majority. So why would you vote in some kind of, or partake in a system that is not going to hear your voice, number one, and number two is going against your God-given rights? It don't make sense. Now, that being said, the whole system is garbage to me. Democratic and Republic, they all are owned by the same people. So I'm not even getting involved in any of that political stuff. What I'm involved in is the Republic side of this whole game. Why? Because I know my God-given rights are protected. I stand with God. So if I'm in the Republic and I'm making sure that these entities out here know what my God is and what my God has ordained for me, then that's where I stand. You could take your Republic Party, Democratic Party, you can go over there and be by yourself in the corner. I'm going to be over here with God. There's a difference. When I speak about the Republic form of government and a Democratic form of government, I'm not talking about a Republic Party versus Democratic Party. I'm talking about standing under my God-given rights. Somebody showed me some love. I want to make sure I give a shout out to them. 1 second. Thank you for the love. Who was that? George is. Gorgeous is. Yes, you are gorgeous. Yes, you is. Okay. Infant, thank you for the love. And Infant says democracy, demon-accuracy. I agree. Danger, thank you for the love. All right. So tonight's topic, how governments deceive the people by swapping meanings. So you've understood. Amaru, thank you for the love. So now we have an understanding now. We're clear on this. Democracy and what it means. It means taking away your God-given rights. Republic means standing under your God-given rights. Okay? If I have any questions or comments, thank you, Amaru. Thank you for the love. If I have any questions or comments, I want to hear it. Will says, what got me to digging was the fact that Woodrow Wilson was the first president to segregate the federal government. If he segregated the federal government, this leads back to your topic. Thank you for the comment, Will. Woodrow Wilson, he says, segregated. That means that originally there were melanated people in it. Hold on. I want to get a year on this. Woodrow Wilson was president in, let's see, I wanted to get a year on this real quick. 1913. It says Woodrow Wilson did not adopt Burleson's proposal, but he did resolve to give his cabinet secretaries discretion to segregate their respective departments. By the end of 1913, many departments, including the Navy, Treasury, the Commerce of Post Office, had segregated workspaces. That was in 1913. That means originally there were melanated people in those positions. And I want to thank you for that, Will. And this is what I mean when I say subscribe, like, and share, because we are all finding little pieces and filling in these holes that are in history so that we can find the truth. All right. So when you're talking about the segregation, people are not recognizing that there was originally melanated people in all and when we're talking about your original presidents before Washington, there were what the difference is between black and white, what the difference is between democracy and republic. All right. And there are so many other terms that have been switched with respect to what we have been told by these so-called governments. Axel says, hello, Axel, what year or century the Moors came into America? All right, so thank you for that question. Now, you have, of course, the British who came in, and we're talking about 1600, 1500, 1600s. Of course, you got Columbus, and Columbus was a Moor. And when I say Moor, this does not have to do with skin color. Let me make that clear. Moors deals with sailors. Look up the term moored, M-O-O-R-E-D, and look up the term mooring, M-O-O-R-I-N-G. So it deals with a job done on a ship. Moor, M-O-O-R, is a verb, and it was applied to those people who were sailors, most of which of them were melanated people. This is why people want to associate the term Moor with dark skin, but the truth is it had to do with the job done on a ship. And how do we know this? Because you have terms like blackamoor and all these other adjectives, something more. Well, if it had to do with black or skin color, why you need the term blackamoor on there? You don't need that term. The other thing is, ask your Moor friends, the people who are really in the Moorish houses or what have you. Ask them if there was some Albion, so-called white Moors, and they're gonna tell you yes. Well, then if there was Albion Moors, how are you telling me this term had to do with skin color? It didn't. It had everything to do with a verb and a job done on the ship. So getting back to your question, your Moors came into Americas when you're talking about even Columbus. Then you start talking about Britain when they started setting up colonies. That was back in the early 1500s or 1500s to 1600s. Because you can find the first what do we call it, business, because it was a business. It was called the Virginia Company. Look this up. Once again, my sister who asked me earlier, look up these topics. I mean, the Virginia Company. That was one of the original colonies. It's the same company you know of today as state of Virginia. It's the same company. They want to tell you it's a state, or they want to tell you it's a government. It's a British company. All right. So look that up. All right. So then you had other elite Moors, even around the time Britain was in here, that were establishing other governments. We call them counties. We also call it federal government. Those are different governments. So when we start talking about federal, state, city, county, all okay, they're just different forms of government, and you've got to recognize that they all have different roles and different purposes. So that's the thing. We're not recognizing all of these different governments. And then on top of that, each one of those different governments has a public side and a private side. Each one of them. Now I'm going to get into the law of duality. All right. So we're talking about public and private. That's duality. Democratic republic. That's duality, meaning for your God-given rights, against your God-given rights. All right. When we're talking about, everything has duality. County, city, state, federal. All of them have a duality, a public side versus a private side. You got to understand the difference between the two, and recognize how these governments have to work for you. The truth says it's a marriage. It is a marriage between, the dualities. And so you've got to understand, even when we're talking about feminine versus masculine, that's a marriage. And the truth says the two become one. Yes. So we got to recognize that because everything has duality, when somebody tries to throw something at you, then you got to recognize that there's a way for it to uplift you. If they're meaning it for, to degrade you or bring you down, you got to recognize that everything has duality. So I'm going to get on to some things and some ways that we swap the duality Okay, let's get into it. The birth certificate. Okay, you hear a lot of people saying, oh, they sold us into slavery with the birth certificate. We the slaves. Please don't buy into that garbage. All right. They only sold a corporation, a dead corporate entity. Now we're going to talk about duality again. You got the all capital letter name that's dead, and then you got the spiritual name that's living. One of them is all caps, the other one is upper and lowercase. Duality, one's alive, one's not. They can't sell your physical body, but they can sell that dead corporation. That corporation belongs to you when you learn the duality. The duality is, it's not even you. So they didn't enslave you in any way. You're enslaving yourself by calling yourself the all capital citizen. That's where the enslavement comes, in your mind. From your mouth, you're speaking. You're constantly writing contracts, getting back to it. When you say or you make a claim that you are that all capital letter dead entity, then you have agreed to be property. But the minute you learn who you are, well, you take over the duality. You come out of the dead and come into the living. Now this thing that they have been selling on the market, it has a value. You get the opportunity to take it over. But that's only when you change your mindset. All right. So Deep says you are a corporate citizen. You are not a corporate citizen. But if you claim to be one, then that's what they're going to treat you like. The corporate citizen is the all capital letter dead entity. And not knowing the difference, being ignorant, gives them the authority to treat you like a dead entity. All right? Queen asked a question, private. Expound on your question, Queen, so I can fully understand what you're saying. All right? So I need you to understand that when there is duality in the all cap name. If the all cap name is dead, well, then there's got to be a living version to it, because the only thing that can make it move is a living entity. You got to become on the living side. The problem is that you are on the wrong side of duality. If you're claiming to be the dead entity, then you're claiming that you don't have rights to anything. That includes your God-given rights. You got to understand who you are. You got to understand what the Republic truly means, and stop knee-jerking. Stop being about, oh, well, grandmama and them, they voted Democratic, and grandmama before grandmama and them, they voted Democratic. Well, you better start learning something so that you don't keep falling in the same traps that grandmama and great grandmama and them fell into. At what point do you not recognize that for over 70 years, and that's being conservative, not one time has voting for any of these people helped you? When did you switch it up? When did you start doing some research and going, wait a minute, I don't want to keep repeating this. Okay, let me answer some questions. Will says, demons, the folk round with the live. All right, let me read this. Scramble the message, went off for a couple minutes. Okay. Birth certificates fall under maritime laws. Thank you, Will. Maritime laws should only be used at sea. Straw man. Thank you for that, Will. So let me make this clear. All right. As what Will is saying, when you're talking about anything of maritime, you're talking about of the sea, not on land. So what has happened is when I'm talking about these Moors, they're dealing in maritime law, meaning of the sea. These are laws of the sea. When you're dealing with land, we're talking about the Republic. And anything of the sea has no rights to anything of the land. Pay attention now. What did I tell you the term Moor meant? Even the term Moor is a maritime word. It means a job done on a ship. The term Moor is a maritime, meaning they come from somewhere else over the sea. So if you even calling yourself a Moor, I said it, I'm saying it. You're saying you don't even have rights to land. Anything of the sea or of a maritime is not of land and has no rights to it. Let's be clear. Thank you for that. Anybody else have any other questions or comments? I want to hear them. I'm going through these comments. Thank you for joining on TikTok and YouTube. YouTube, subscribe. TikTok, please follow, like, and share. Thank you all for joining. All right, tonight's session, we're dealing with how governments deceive the public by switching meanings. Now, I want to get into something now, and I remind you of the UNA Beginner Law Book. All right, if you do not have one, please get you one. Inside of here are the universal laws. This book deals with contract writing and just the understanding contract writing and the fact that you're constantly contracting with these entities in your everyday life. It also deals with the maxims of law. These are God's laws. All right, right here. If I'm going into court, I'm standing on these laws. Thank you for the love vibrate. Okay. Also with this book comes a copy of your vibratory frequency chart. Very important. Y'all know we operate up here. This is when we're operating in our right minds. It also comes with the hierarchy of laws. This document here helps you to understand where you are within this game. The universal laws, which is what I'm talking about today. Universal laws meaning the law of duality. All right. You'd also find it on here as the law of polarity. Same thing. And this is another chart that it comes with, the societal totem pole and the civilization. .com, or you can find the link in the bio. All right. The truth says higher frequency. That's right. That's where we vibrate on a higher frequency. All right. Now, also the truth says the doctor signed the birth certificate. Now, you know, again, we were talking about etymology. The dock, as in sitting on the dock of the bay. Doc, I mean, it sounds crazy. When we really break down the terminology of what's really going on, a doc, doctor is where that term comes from, because what they're doing is signing, saying that there is, I would say, treasure that's come in on the dock. All right. And so he has to sign off saying that, yeah, something came in to the dock across waters, which would be the waters coming from your mother's womb. I'm going to say this because, again, a lot of facts reside in just the words that we use every day. There's a lot of hidden knowledge, a lot of hidden gems in the words that we use every day. And when we start doing etymology, you can see it. All right. So thank you for that. When we're talking about doc and what that really means. Okay. I want to get into this and then we're going to close it out. Okay. we're talking about making sure that we use everything as duality, because all things, even when these agents come at us and they try to keep us down or they try to use things to enslave us, when you have knowledge of it, then you can use it to uplift yourself. I talked about the birth certificate. Same thing with the social security card. Even with the language, when you gain knowledge of the language, let's talk about this real quick, and then I'm going to get ready to get out of here. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section. When we're talking about the English language, it is truly a backwards language, and it was created purposely to discombobulate those who use it spiritually. English is purposely created to discombobulate the people who use these terms. So I'm going to give you an example. Intelligent. You know, we think when we use the term intelligent, it means somebody who's knowledgeable. All right. So let me break this down etymologically. All right. In means not. In means not. Tell means to project or speak or convey. All right. Gent means to say it in a way that is understood or respected or gentle, if you will. So intelligent means not to project with understanding. Intelligent means not to project with understanding. So really, we've been saying intelligent when we just need to say intelligent. I'm just giving you an example. Here's another one. When you hear people use the term aboriginal, and I'm giving you these terms because I need you to go and look it up. All right. When you hear people say aboriginal, ab means not. Look it up. Do the etymology. Ab means not. So when you say aboriginal, and ab also means away from or far from, but it means not. So when you say aboriginal, you're saying away from original or far from original. It means not original. But somebody's got you saying aboriginal. Well, you got to recognize somebody knows what these terms really mean. On a spiritual level, you have discombobulated yourself. And then on a legal level, you said you're not original legally. That's the problem with not recognizing what's going on with this language. The good thing about, according to my research, English is that it's really close because it's so backwards, like 180 degrees. Because it's so backwards, the good thing is, well, when you learn what it is, you can reverse it by, instead of saying intelligent, it's just intelligent. Who wrote the English language? I'm giving you another title or topic for you to look up. Phoenicians. 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 That's a group of melanated people. According to my research, most of them come from the Israelite tribe. Thank you for that, Micah. Degree is another one. Yeah. Let's see if I can go into degree in a second. But when you go and look up Phoenicians, you're going to find that it was the Phoenicians that created this language we call English. And they created it for the purpose of discombobulating a group of people. Who were they trying to discombobulate? Well, your so-called Albions, so-called white people. They were purposely trying to discombobulate them. And as they did that, what ended up happening is they had to fall into the trap of their own curse. So understand this, you cannot curse somebody without cursing yourself. And it was a group of melanated people who originally, intentionally taught this English language to your so-called white people or your Albions to discombobulate them spiritually. And then, of course, melanated people ended up being the ones falling into the curse that they put out. Now, you might be saying, well, I didn't have nothing to do with this English. I didn't. You are your ancestors. You are them. Okay, now I'm getting on the spiritual side. So you understand that whatever it is we're going through, we created this. If you want to come out of it, be willing to, first of all, do your own research and your homework and understand what's going on in this game. And secondly, understand the spiritual side of this. Everything comes from the spiritual side. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You could be talking about a traffic ticket, you're talking about somebody suing you, or you suing somebody, or somebody violated your rights. All of that comes from the spiritual side, all of it. Kenneth asks, how can I get the UNA package? Thank you so much for that, Kenneth. Leave your name and number and email in the inbox. Just send me a message. Leave your name, number, and email. And what we're going to do is make sure we get in contact with you so that we can invite you to our workshop. As a matter of fact, we have a workshop this Tuesday. We would love to invite everybody to that workshop. If you're interested, leave your name, number, and email in the inbox. Leave us a message. On TikTok, find us at UNARepublic.com. YouTube, find us at UNARepublic.com. And you'll be able to leave your name, number, and have a consultation set up. Uwe says, does the Academy work on UCC and trust? Absolutely. We deal with UCCs and trust. If that's your question, we show you how to do it, how to create a trust, how to really establish your whole umbrella from your trust to your holding company to your LLCs, and how to make sure all of that is under trust. Okay. So yes, we deal with all of that. Malik, welcome. Malik says, you are the cargo to the arbor. Dr. Delbert Blair explained what AB means. Yes, Malik, Delbert Blair was one of the first people who I started watching when I was looking for on. So whoever tried to set up a trust, you know full well that's a great fee. I'm not here to sell you on it. You've got to come in and know what's going on with that trust package. You get an education. You're not going to get that. And by the way, it's not going to stay at that price for much longer. So it's $625 right now, but it'll go up because it includes an education. It includes your trust documents. If you just look up online what it costs to get those, you'll know the value of that package. Okay, to be a part of UNA University, we have a financing program. All right. So if you're interested in that, go to UNARepublic.com or leave your name, number, and email in the inbox, and let's get with you so we can get you on that financing program. All right. Does anybody else have any comments? Thank y'all for you. You know what? Let me say this too. Let me say this. YouTube, I love you and I appreciate you, but I need to speak to my TikTok people because I want y'all to know I'm really proud of you all who are doing your research. And I'm proud to be on this platform because of the simple fact that I see people are awakening. I see people are wanting to know and they're willing to do their research. I'm really honored to see that. Okay. As I was going through the comments, and I did take some time, I spent some hours going through the comments on some of the videos that we put out, and it was just impressive to me to see how much people are really starting to awaken. 5 years ago, I could have put this stuff out and I'd get attacked. And I still do get some attacks. I get a lot of them on YouTube, but on TikTok, it's a different platform in that the people here really want to know, and that's important. All right, that's important. And I say, I love you. I'm proud of you. I see the awakening. That's why this platform is under such attack, because the people who go to that platform, they want to wake up. They want to know. So thank you. I love you. I appreciate that. YouTube, I see y'all. I see you coming into yours. But we're going to get there. All right. So if anybody out there who's feeling like, man, we're not going to never get there, guess what? It's happening right in your face. The awakening is happening right in your face. So congratulations. All you need to do is learn how to start speaking what your vision is and watch your third dimension show up. All right. Carrie says, from the United Kingdom, and what you says about our race and history are very narcissistic. Thank you, Carrie. So let me say something about your, what race? I guess you're saying you're Albion. And it's interesting to me when people who use that term narcissistic. So let's be clear about what narcissistic is. You cannot encounter a narcissist without being a narcissist. The people who use that term, they're narcissists. So if you want to call me a narcissist, that's fine. But what I'm telling you are the facts. So if the facts hurt your feelings, the problem is not me, it's you. You don't want to do research. So Carrie is one of those people. See, it's funny how I just got finished giving all these compliments, and I get a narcissist pop up on my screen. So let's talk about this. The so-called white race. And let's talk about the facts. All right. So here's what science says. And Carrie, I want you to stay tuned because I want to hear your feedback. Dangerous says, you got your trust for free. Congratulations, Dangerous. I'm proud of you. So getting back to what Carrie says. When we're talking about science, what science says that all Albions, really all people, come from melanated people. All right. So when we're talking about light skin, in some aspects, according to my research, that the Albions were grafted from the melanated people, whereby somebody purposely suppressed the melanin in the genes. All right. This is what science says. This is what history says. Ancient scripture says. All right. So Carrie says Irish, Scottish didn't come from Arabs or Africans or Chinese. Okay, Carrie, but my research is showing that they did, and that all, and as a matter of fact, Irish people, as a matter of fact, they were the original slaves in the Americas, by the way. Now, this is just the facts. When you go and do your research, Carrie, you're going to find this. So what you're doing is you're knee-jerking in here because you don't know what the facts are about science, and this is upsetting to you because you don't have knowledge. Okay, so but just pay attention and then go do your research before you start calling people names like narcissists when you're talking about yourself. All right, so basically what's going on is that according to science, again, all the Albions, light-skinned people, you come from melanated folks. So with that being understood, one of the things that has been, that my research rather is showing, is that when we're talking about light-skinned people, one of the places that they were created is in the land that we know of today as Argentina. So supposedly they were started there. That's what my research is showing. Now, what science also says about light skin is that light skin is recessive. What does recessive mean? Recessive means unnatural, genetically modified, something created. That's what it means. It means that it has a lifespan and a time expectancy where it has to extinguish at some point. I'm not making this up, Carrie. I'm telling you what science is showing. Don't come in here knee-jerking. Carrie, I love you. I do. I don't have any issues with my light-skinned people. I love them. For me, you know, it's about who we are as spiritual entities. I'm trying to get us to follow our spirits. But at the same time, we got to know what the facts are. And if you're knee-jerking on the facts, then that's just telling me you're immature, you're childish, and you're not ready to grow up because you don't know what the truth is and don't want to know. That's okay. That means this channel is not for you. We deal with mature people here. All right? So now, let's get back on this. Okay? So, according to my research, you got these light-skinned people that were created in the land known as Argentina. Now, probably part of the issue was this land was too hot. They couldn't take the topography of this land known as Argentina. So, according to research, they were moved to colder climates. Irish, what we know as even Britain, Caucasus Mountains, you hear that? They were moved to other areas where they started to procreate. And then when they started to procreate, then the Moors started kidnapping them. So here we're talking about the Irish. Go and look up the Irish and find out how many of them were kidnapped. There was some of those towns in those lands, so many people were kidnapped that the whole society had to shut down because they didn't have enough people to keep it running. Who was kidnapping them? Moors, whether it be from Tunis, Algiers, Montezuma, Tripoli, Britain, all of these places, they were the ones that were kidnapping these Albions and bringing them in as slaves. They were kidnapping the children. So you can say to me that I am calling me that N-word. And I'm okay with that because I know who I am. I also know who you are because I know if you're calling me that, then that's what you are. Okay, I only give the facts. That's all I'm here for, is the facts. And if you find a fact that's different than what I'm saying, please tell it. Otherwise, you're just knee-jerking and then regurgitating something you heard from somebody else. All right. So getting back to this, when we're talking about your light-skinned people, they were kidnapped, and a lot of them were brought into the Americas. Morocco was another place that they were kidnapped and brought into there. But Ireland, Sicily, and some of these other lands is where they were sent originally, and then they started to multiply, and then they got kidnapped by the Moors. Well, remember now, I'm talking about another universal law. Whatever energy you put out must come back, which is the principle. If they did this to the Albion, well, they got to suffer this treatment. Remember, I said we are our ancestors. If we do this dirt as our ancestors, that's a treatment that we have to suffer. When you put a curse on a people, you must suffer that same curse. Just like I said, we have the Phoenicians, and you hear the term phonetics in the term Phoenician. We got the Phoenicians that created this language and put it on the Albion. And then here it is, melanated people are suffering from this same curse that the Phoenicians, a melanated group, put on them. Okay, then you got these Moors, melanated people, who go and kidnap these Albions and bring them into the land known as the Americas and have them as slaves. Well, why is there we shouldn't even be surprised why melanated people are in the situation they're in. We enslaved the Albion first. Don't believe me? I just need you to go do your research. And do not be trying to look in no public school books You're not going to find this information there. You've got to dig. That's why I'm giving you topics so that you can go and research the topics, and then you can find different sources on the topics that I'm giving you. Thank you for the love, Vibrate. Thank you, Stone Chill. Fatima says, why the Moors do that? Listen, the Moors did some dirt and they knew better. When we're talking about, you know, even when we're talking about the universal laws, the Moors, the ones who created the English language, when we're talking about, because when we're talking about the Phoenicians, they were Moors as well. They sailed. And so they knew laws and how words and letters vibrate and resonate with our DNA. All right. They knew that. And so when they decided to go and create this language, they knew better. But they somehow didn't care about the fact that, well, they got to come back and live what they put on somebody else. Again, we are our ancestors. Spiritual energy does not die. It doesn't die. It just recycles back in here. So all of these babies that are being born, which includes you, you're just an old spirit coming back in a new vessel. You know how people keep saying, well, we old, that baby's an old spirit. Well, so are you. You are your ancestors. The Moors, what the Moors did, or what, and it's not necessarily Moors, I'm just telling you, a melanated group of people are responsible for grafting the melanin out of the vessels or out of the genes of these beings that we know of as Albions or so-called white people. They're not white, but somebody grafted the melanin out of them, and whoever did that, they got a curse on them too. Do I have time? I got a little time. I'm gonna go into that. Whoever grafted the melanin out of the so-called white people, they received a curse too. And to my friend Carrie, who's upset about this information that I'm saying about the Albion, I need you to know that the only reason why I speak the facts is because, as it said, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. This is not hate against anybody. You just need to know what the facts are and stop trying to call people that dumb N-word name when you don't even understand what it is or what I'm speaking about. Thank you for the love, Brooks. Danger says Yakub did it. Thank you, Loride. Thank you for the rose. Thank you, Shar. 1 second. Vibrate says we are our ancestors. Fact. Yes, thank you. And let me say this about what this group of people did. They didn't create necessarily the people, because let's understand, they can't create spirits. But what they do create is a vessel. So when we go back to even the Anunnaki, some of you all are familiar with the Anunnaki. They can't create the spirit, but what they would do is tamper with the vessel, such that they create another vessel, and then they want to claim control and ownership of that creation. All right. When you have people who are giving out these vaccines, for example, what they're doing is tampering with the DNA and changing it such that they can make a claim on that new DNA. Pay attention to what I'm saying, because when they've been tampering, they've been tampering with our DNA. The vessels that we're in are nothing more than genetically modified vessels. So when they come around and then they give a vaccine here and a vaccine for that, and then they telling you vaccine, and then we just recently had another vaccine, what they're doing is tampering with the DNA. And so now that they can make a claim on your DNA because you have consented to allow them to change the RNA or the DNA in your vessel. And that is just, okay, pay attention, vaccinated people. It's the same thing. You all know about Monsanto, right? Monsanto creates this corn that's a GMO corn. This GMO corn gets planted next to a farmer's corn who has regular original corn. And so Monsanto plants their corn, or somebody who has Monsanto seeds plants their corn next to the real corn, and then this GMO corn contaminates the real corn. And then you know what Monsanto does? They sue this farmer with the real corn and says, oh, you've got our property in your field. Wait a minute. You just contaminated my real corn with your crappy GMO corn, and you got the nerve to sue me? Well, that's exactly what they're doing with your DNA. That's exactly what they're doing with your DNA, because now that you've given them the permission to tamper with your RNA, well, now they get to claim it. You ain't paying attention to this game? You still with me, Carrie? Or are you mad at me? Don't be mad at me. I need you to be willing to learn the truth, because nothing I'm saying here is an attempt to show hate on anybody. I love my light-skinned people. Carrie, you're talking about public school education. Nothing I'm speaking is public school education, okay? These are the facts. And you got to be willing to go and research, Carrie. You're just trying to lump us all in a group. Do you understand what you just said? You said, not being funny, U.S. education is very corrupt. No wonder so much racism there. You're clumping all U.S. people in a group. That's narcissistic. You haven't even been over here. You never even been to the U.S., but you're making an assumption based on something, and you haven't done any research. And you're not recognizing anything that we're speaking on here. None of this is about U.S. public school education. I'm just speaking the facts, and you haven't heard me show any hate. The problem is, when I speak the truth, it's upsetting to you because you are used to the lies. So when you do your research, Carrie, then I need you to come back, and then we can have an adult, mature, educated conversation. All right. So now, does anybody else have any comments or questions before I get out of here? Carrie, I hope you do some research. Because everything that we're speaking on here is very much different from what you're talking about as far as the education. Thank you, Will. All right. Will, let me say this, Will, and thank you for your comment. Will says ignorance deserves no audience. But I have to listen. Terry is someone who, she doesn't know. All right. All of us at some point we're ignorant, and we're deciding to do our own research and wake up. All right. Terry doesn't know. Terry is a good teachable moment. I got love for Terry, and everybody else who's here. And I think you all deserve to be, you deserve some attention, especially if you have questions or you're upset about something. All right. So thank you for that, Will. But I got to make sure I address Terry and everybody else who might be in the comments feeling just like Terry, but they scared to say something. All right. Let me get ready to get up out of here. I want y'all to know I love you. What's going on, Patai? Richard, the truth is most important. Thank you, Richard. The truth is very important. All right. So we've understood now when we're talking about our light-skinned people or albions, again, science is showing that they come from melanated people. History shows that these albions were transported to other parts of the world that were cooler for them so that they could procreate. Science and history, or history, is showing that these people were kidnapped by the Moors, which were melanated people, and they were enslaved. A lot of which was done here in the Americas. And because these melanated people did this, their descendants had to experience the same energy that they put out. So when we start talking about melanated people being enslaved in the Americas and incarcerated, which is another form of enslavement or slavement, then we understand where that energy came from. It's not just happenstance. We are our ancestors, and when we decide to clean up that spiritual baggage, well, you'll see everything change, and that's exactly what's happening in your face. All right? Carrie, but everything that I've just said, you keep saying spreading misinformation, when the fact is everything that I've said, you can go and research for yourself, Carrie. So nothing that I've said is misinformation. And let me be clear to everybody, there will be no union, because she says the misinformation causes hate. There will be no unity until the truth is told, until the facts are established. There will be no unity. You cannot unite based on lies. Trust me, melanated people have been trying to do it for decades and centuries, and it hasn't happened, and it won't happen because you're trying to build on lies. There will be no building, there will be no unity until the truth and the facts have come to light. Now, once you're ready to establish and recognize what the facts are and stop talking about some misinformation, when everything that I've said can be researched by you. So Carrie, who is the narcissist up in here? You trying to run something on ignorance. You the narcissist. I didn't like to use that term because it's ridiculous. I hate that this dumb term has even come to light. Grow up and be willing to do your own research. Grow up. Because nobody's giving misinformation here. Everything that, as a matter of fact, don't believe a word I say. Y'all don't believe a word I say on YouTube, TikTok, don't believe a word I say. Look up everything that I have said, because I've given you the topic. I'm not spoon feeding you my information. I'm not giving you Diva Lyri's book. I want you to go research it for yourself and then come back and let's have an intelligent conversation. I can't have an intelligent conversation with you when you're ignorant. All right. Whoop says, I need a package. Find us on UNARepublic.com. Find us or leave a message, name, number, phone, name, number, email in the inbox, and we will definitely get back to you. All right. So that we can get you the book. And also, if you want to just get the book or a package, if you want to get the book, you can go to UNARepublic. All right. If you want to have a consultation, which if you're getting a membership package, we must have a consultation with you, then you can leave your name, email, and phone number in the inbox. All right. Let me make sure I've gotten everything. All right. So look, thank you all for your love in the comment section. And once again, YouTube, thank you for the love. TikTok, once again, I know that the people on this platform, they're really searching for knowledge. Unfortunately, we have some every now and then. Carrie is one of those people who choose not to do their own research and want to be upset and knee-jerk, but you know, so it is. Marini says the Anunnaki. And Marini says, who made the black people? Anunnaki. Will says the women of color made the people of color. Okay. So according to my research and the ancient scriptures, when we're talking about the human vessel, it's saying that a group of beings that we know of as the Anunnaki created the human vessel according to ancient scripture. All right. And again, I say, when I put it like this, is because so that you can go and research it for yourself. Go and look up the Sumerian text, the Sumerian information. All right. And the Sumerian is the oldest living, oldest known civilization. Go and look that up. Look up the translations. Read the book of Enki. And what's going to happen? Yes, Nakisha, we're on UNARepublic on YouTube. YouTube at UNARepublic, so you can look us up there, and there you can find a lot of our sessions, the full sessions that we have done, and get some more information. All right. So with this Anunnaki, these Anunnaki beings, supposedly they came to this planet. Now, let's understand that these beings had the ability to procreate on their own. They had knowledge of how to bring something from death back to life. They have knowledge of how to splice DNA. They know how to take one DNA cell and create a whole being. So one of the things about the Anunnaki, you know, when they start talking about the Noah's Ark, and I didn't want to go deep into this tonight, but when you start talking about Noah's Ark, for example, people are saying, oh, he had 2 chickens and 2 lions and 2 giraffes and 2 gorillas. And that's not how it worked according to the ancient scriptures. When that whole flood went down, it was said in the ancient scriptures that one of the Anunnaki who knew how to splice DNA, they went around the planet, and because they knew the flood was about to happen, but they went around the planet and collected the DNA of animals because they knew that all of the beings on the planet was about to be destroyed. They knew that, so they collected this DNA. And when these Anunnaki collected the DNA, they gave the DNA in a box to Noah. That's according to the ancient scriptures. But now if you don't read and you just think in the Bible and you not recognizing what the Bible is, I talked about the Bible. I told you what it is. Go and look that up on YouTube on at UNARepublic. Any rate, so just getting into that, somebody asked about the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki supposedly created the human vessel. And those beings were dark beings. They were not light skinned. They were not Albion. One of the issues with these Anunnaki beings is that they wanted to splice the human DNA with other animals. Pay attention, Carrie. Pay attention. Because I'm ready to get into something and you're going to be upset. And I just need you to go do your research. They wanted to splice the human vessel with other beings, but there was an issue with them doing that because of the simple fact that this melanin or the carbon in the DNA, it would not allow them to splice these vessels, these melanated vessels. It wouldn't allow them to splice them with other animals. So what they start doing is grafting. Because when you graft the melanin out of these human vessels, well, then you can splice it with other beings. So understand, the Anunnaki was splicing anything and everything together that they could find. This is why you'll see in ancient scriptures and ancient biblical texts, these beings where they was half animal and half human. On the bottom they was animals, on the top they was human, and on the top they was animals, on the bottom they was human. When you see these little videos and movies about these half animal, half human beings, that comes from when the Anunnaki was splicing all kind of beings together. That comes from them. All right, so But one of the things we know is when it comes to light skin, they started splicing those light skinned beings. How do we know? If you look up any research, Carrie and everybody else watching, what you're going to find is they'll tell you when you start talking about finding beings born with tails. Let's just talk about that. You're not going to find that in melanated people, but your light-skinned people, that's a phenomenon that only occurs in a light-skinned being because they couldn't splice these darker skinned vessels with other animals. All right, this is not a diss. Again, there will be no unity until we know the full facts. So as much as this is upsetting to you and it's angering you because you have light skin, nobody is hating on you. I got to give you the facts. And all you need to do is go and look it up and prove me wrong. Do not believe a word I say. Go look it up and then just prove me wrong. Let's have an intelligent conversation. You say, hey, my research showing this. I say, okay, let's look at it. But I'm telling you what my research is saying. And I'm telling you what to go and look up. Anybody else have any questions? So according to my research, you know, the Anunnaki, as I said, created the human vessel, but what they cannot create is a spirit. They didn't create that. And so in recognizing that, this is why when I'm speaking to my people or anybody, when I say my people, my students, it's not about skin color. Because my people, light skin, dark skin, and in the middle. My people are people who operate with honesty, integrity, and respect, kindness, compassion, and love. Those are my people, period. So whenever I'm talking to my people, I'm talking to you about getting back to spirit. I'm not even talking about your vessel. But until the truth has come out about what has gone on in history, forget about uniting. We can't unite because you're going to be calling me a narcissist every time I want to tell you the truth. You're going to be talking about somebody's hating on you because of what the facts are. I didn't make it up. I'm just telling you what happened. And you have the right not to listen. I respect that. But what you want to do, what you want to do is either go to another channel or be willing to grow up and do your own research. Hello, Braylon. Welcome. Nakes says, oops, there it is. All right. Thank you, Coachy. Thank you for the love. Okay, so now, Carrie, before I get out of here, you got anything else you want to add? I want you to know I love you. I really do. Thank you for allowing this to be a teachable moment. And note that I'm not picking on you. I just need you to be aware of what you're saying, because you are contradicting yourself when you say these things and not being willing to go and research. Virtual, thank you for the love. You are on the team. Homemade says, so they're goats. What are you talking about, Homemade? Talk to me. Vibrate says, thank you, sister. Thank you, Vibrate, for the love. Michael says, is there a God or is it Anunnaki? Michael, thank you for that question. That's an intelligent question. Thank you, Michael. Now, I think Michael was trying to be facetious when he said it, but Michael, thank you. And I'm going to address this question and then I'm going to get up out of here. All right. Michael says, is there a God or is it Anunnaki? Now, I'm going to go from what my research is showing. One second. I'm going to go from what my research and what everything I know is showing. All right. What is a God? What is a God? A God is a being that has the ability to control its third dimension through its energies. A God is a being that has the ability to control its third dimension through its energies. Now, let's understand that, yes, these Anunnaki, they were gods, they were creators. And everybody who's watching this, you are a creator. See, everybody wants to say, I'm a child of God, I'm a child of God. How can you be a child of something and not be that? How can you be a child of God and not be a God? You are a God if you're saying you're a child of God. Okay. So now, what is a God? Again, as we said, a being that has the ability to create energy or its third dimension through its energies. Now, let's talk about this. I've seen gods on this multi-level, on the macroscopic level and the microscopic. As is above, so is below. As is without, so is within. So you got to understand, as you are a God in this dimension, within you there are gods. Gods, plural. And so for you people who want to tell me it's only one God, well, that's not what your Bible said. That is not what your Bible said. Your Bible said Elohim. Your Bible said, let us create. Your Bible says when the gods, when when they were building that Tower of Babel and they were trying to go up and fight the gods, that the gods said, let us go down and discombobulate their language. Your Bible is telling you there's many gods. Elohim, Elohim, El meaning God, Ohim meaning many. There are many gods. But then, not even that. If you do your research and you read the left out books, read the book of Jasher, Jasher, book of Jasher. Read that. When you read that, it makes it clear that there were many gods. And then when you go and read Book of Enki and you read some of these other books, go to the Sumerian tablet, you find the name of these gods, and then you find out where the true story came from that you find in the Bible. So getting back to the question, is there a God? There are many gods, Michael. But when we're talking about source or the Most High, well, what is that? That is all of us collectively. That's you, the humans, the dogs, the trees, the cats, the fish in the sea, the whales, all of that combined, that is God. All of it. That is, let me rephrase that, the Most High, or that is source. That's all of us collectively. But you, as a God, you have the authority and the ability to create your third dimension. You've been doing it, but somebody has been telling you that there's a being outside of you that's doing it. Well, if you want to keep giving away your power like that, then go ahead. But when you recognize that it's all on you, and that when you change your mindset, your third dimension can be exactly what you want it to be. But when you recognize that, then you stand as the God that you are. So we're talking about, is it a God or is it Anunnaki? I'm telling you that the Anunnaki were gods, and you are a God, and you have many gods within you. And when we're talking about the Most High, that's all of us collectively. Now, if you want to talk to source and call it whatever you want to, but you need to understand that source is representative of every being and everything on this planet. All right. I hope I answered that question. I'm going to get up out of here. I want y'all to know I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you. Carrie, I love you. Don't be mad at me. I'm just telling the facts. It is difficult. I understand, but I need you to grow up and be willing to do your research. All right. Any books of Apocrypha you suggest that are good to know about? Again, I say Book of Jasher is one of my favorites. Book of Enki is a great one, but read all of those left out books. Amadi says, even Jesus said it. Thank you. Many gods is before first century, and Jesus was born in the first century. Okay, Carrie, do some research now. I told you what to do. All right, so let me get up out of here. I want y'all to know I love you. We're going to see you on next Friday. All right. For those of you all who want to join, like I said, as a member, or if you want to be a part of the UNA University, I want you to leave a message in the inbox. Leave a message and leave your name, phone number, and email so that we can get in contact with you. Okay. Also, if you want to get the book, UNA Beginner Law book, okay, find this at UNAUniversity.com. All right, find us at UNAUniversity.com. And then also, if you want the membership package, leave a message or find the link in the bio. It comes with your membership ID, your allodial ID, your membership badge, your membership documents, as well as an education. All right, this is highly valuable, highly powerful, especially with the education that you get with it. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here. I want y'all to know I love you. We're going to see you all next Friday. All right, I want y'all to like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Okay, I'm out. I'm gonna see y'all Friday. Give me a hug. I'm out. I love you.